13-year-old built a tiny house and hid something huge inside. Finally, school is out for summer, and what better way to spend the summer holidays than to relax and hang out with your friends? However, for Luke Thill from Dubuque, Iowa, this wasn't enough. He wanted to find another way to channel his energy. Luke searched YouTube for interesting DIY projects. Like most teens, Luke could not wait any longer to leave his parents' home, so he spent his summer holidays building his own 89-square-foot tiny home from scratch. You won't believe how much he spent. While he scavenged the internet for outdoor DIY ideas, he came across many instructional YouTube videos on building a tiny house. He discovered that the term is used to describe a movement, mostly seen in the United States, that supports living more simply in small houses, usually under 500 square feet. People are choosing to downsize the space they live in, simplify, and live with less. Putting their size aside, these houses support all the needs of a regular-sized house, suggesting size does not matter. Luke decided that he wanted to build his own tiny house in his family's backyard using the instructional videos. Knowing it can't be as simple as IKEA instructions, this young boy was determined. Although only a small house, Luke needed a number of different recourses for his project, so he plucked up the courage and asked his parents for help. Luke's parents were pleased that their son had better ideas than sitting on the sofa all summer playing video games and offered to help. However, he had to earn this. People in the area heard about Luke's project and were impressed with his idea. Before he could start, he had to work hard in order to save up money for his ambitious project. He decided to do odd jobs around the neighborhood such as mow lawns and clean out garages. He did every chore he could find in order to make his dream a reality. However, in true tiny house movement tradition, he also used as many recycled items he could find. While cleaning out people's garages, Luke came across many hidden treasures. The tiny house movement philosophy promotes using recycled and reused items. Lucky for Luke, most people collect an enormous amount of junk which they tend to leave piling up in their garages. While cleaning, he came across many materials that he realized could be put to good use. One family friend even had an old front door lying around. Sometimes one man's trash is another man's treasure. There are times when there is only so much you can learn from a YouTube DIY video, and at times Luke needed to work in exchange for assistance rather than money. There were also some things that he could not do solo, such as wiring a house for electricity. Luke was not shy to ask for help, as he knew there are some things you don't try at home. One of Luke's neighbors helped him wire the tiny house for electricity in exchange for cleaning out his garage. The 13-year-old's project became public knowledge quickly and word spread fast. He was getting asked for daily updates as people were interested in his work. Although he was happy with the enthusiasm, he needed to find an alternative to answering the same questions multiple times. He decided to start his own YouTube channel, like the ones he was watching, in order to record each step along the way and update everyone on the process. It was not long before he had many followers. Word had gotten out even beyond the perimeters of Luke's neighborhood. One day he was unknowingly called into the principal's office, a terrifying experience for most. To his relief, Luke was not in trouble. Instead, a reporter was there wanting to interview Luke about his project for an article. His YouTube video had caught the attention of many and this reporter wanted to know more. The young boy happily accepted and allowed the reporter, who was good friends with the principal, to ask him all about his plan. Over a year later, Luke Thill was finally ready to start the building process. He had gathered all the materials needed from his jobs around the neighborhood and had saved up a decent amount of money. In fact, he had managed to scrape together an impressive total of $1,500 for his project. With all the excitement and attention, Thill was more ready than ever to start. He had the materials, did the research, and began his project. However, the process was not as smooth as he thought it would be. Luke wanted to put a creative spin on some parts of his house. He decided to make a colorful countertop made from broken pieces of stained glass and glaze. After watching a YouTube video on the process, he felt comfortable that he could replicate it. However, it did not go to plan as hoped. Luke arranged the bits of glass in position and added the glaze. Except the glaze just leaked through the mold that he used. Fortunately, this hiccup did not stop him. Word began to spread across the country about Luke's tiny house. One day a representative from TinyFest Midwest contacted Luke. TinyFest is a festival that celebrates and values the ideals of tiny houses. the representative asked Luke to deliver a speech at their event. After recently earning his Boy Scout merit badge for public speaking, there was no better boy for the job. Luke featured on the TinyFest website. But the question on everyone's mind was, how did his project turn out? The young teenager's hard work was near completion and he was adding the finishing touches. The house was almost livable, it even had electricity. There was only one thing that Luke could not manage for his tiny house, and that was the plumbing. After numerous attempts, the job seemed far too great. Therefore, the house had no running water and consequently no bathroom. Luke's only solution was to pop into the family home every time he needed the restroom. The real test came when Luke spent his first night in his tiny house to check the standards before completely finalizing everything. With temperatures below freezing at the peak of winter, he decided to test the house out for insulation. Unsure whether the house would be warm enough, Luke was ready to embrace the cold temperatures. However, after sleeping in his new bed, Luke announced to his followers that the upstairs loft got so warm he had to open the window for air. Luke Phil's project was complete and the young teen recorded a video tour to update all his YouTube followers. It was not long before the video went viral and Luke had an astonishing 7.5 million views, which is still continuously growing. His channel now has over 45,000 subscribers. Like most videos, his tour video sparked up a lot of comments. Many gave their support saying that Luke helped inspire them to be more active and take on a project themselves. So what is inside this mystery house? The questions on everyone's lips without seeing the video are, what exactly is inside this tiny house and how livable can it really be? Many have been amazed to find out that the tiny home has a kitchen, living area, dining area, and even separate bedroom. While a fold-down table is the only thing that distinguishes the living area to the dining area, it is still two areas with different purposes nonetheless. The bedroom is located in the upstairs loft. Yes, there is an upstairs. The 89-square-foot house has a fully equipped kitchen including a small fridge, electric stove top, and bottled water. The kitchen wall has floor linoleum to give it a tiled look and the countertop is marble. The mold used for the failed stained glass countertop is instead being used underneath as storage. The living room is even more impressive with a couch and TV. Despite the major plumbing issues, Luke is not ready to move into the house permanently just yet. The teenager had another big shock coming his way. Luke was becoming famous. At only 13 years old, Luke headlined in the Des Moines Register and the Telegraph Herald. Both newspapers wrote up articles about Luke and the tiny house he built. As a result, he caught the eye of ABC's show Good Morning America, who came to Iowa to see the house. Luke told the papers that he built the tiny house because he wanted to have a house without a huge mortgage. Around 75% of the house was constructed using recycled materials, making it cheap and environmentally friendly. As Luke already proved, the house was well insulated for the cold winter months. However, in summer, Dubuque can get hot and humid. Luke thought better than spending hundreds on a store-bought air conditioning unit and chose to be more resourceful. Regardless, his 15-amp electrical system did not provide enough power. Luke bought $2 furnace filters, sprayed them with water, and placed them next to a fan or window. The air goes through the damp filters, creating a makeshift cooler which cools the air using the evaporation of water. Given his new fame and attention from YouTube and the media, Luke decided to go the extra mile. He released his own line of merchandise, including t-shirts and sweatshirts, that he designed himself. He took this opportunity to not only put his name out there but to show support for the tiny house movement. Some also figured that it was a chance for Luke to make money for future projects. But what other things would he do? Luke makes an excellent host, regardless of the size of his house. He likes to make one of his favorite dishes, camper stew burritos, which was invented by his dad while camping. Luke has no complaints making the dish for his family using a hot plate in his minuscule kitchen. On the downside, when his guests leave for the evening, he is left to clean up. Although the house does not take long to clean, 15 minutes apparently, Luke makes sure he cleans it at least 4 times a week. While many children look to their older siblings, Luke's other brother Cole looked down in awe. He chose to follow in his younger brother's footsteps and took on a DIY project of his own. Cole made a teardrop camper, like a tiny house on wheels, but smaller. Like Luke, Cole documented his building process on YouTube and also used recycled materials. He similarly put in the labor and hard work himself with a limited budget and just motivation to keep him going. Whenever someone does something for the first time, it is rarely perfect. Luke has admitted that he made some errors when building his tiny home. We already know about the countertop dilemma, but that was not the only thing. When his subscribers asked what other mistakes he encountered, Luke said that the light fixture in the loft was too big, causing people to bump their heads on it. He also says he regrets the speed at which he did the paneling, as it resulted in scuffs and scrapes. Luke is now showcasing other people's small living projects, such as a sheepherder's wagons and even his own mom's project. His mom has decided to dive into the DIY world too and chose to renovate a 1972 camper. She purchased a 1972 Forester Coyote camper that was in need of a revamp. Her famous son plans to film her on her journey as she pimps out the ride with new curtains, tiling, and other updates. What will this family think of next? But it wasn't only his family who he inspired. In the large city of Dubuque, Iowa, an annual event is held named Movers, Shakers and Newsmakers. Luke Thill was chosen as number 10 on the year's list of most fascinating people. The now 14-year-old was recognized for his achievements and the media attention that was received. Officially the talk of the town, Luke was invited to a fancy dinner party and received an award. Luke revealed that he found the meal so fancy, it was unlike anything he ever had before. Luke Thill's project inspired so many people around the world. If a 13-year-old could build something like a house, surely they could top it. Others wanted to get their creative juices flowing and give themselves a project too. Out of the 18,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, many left positive comments to show their support. A subscriber named Kadar commented on his page and called the young teenager, "superb husband material." Not Luke's idea of a title, but a compliment nonetheless. With so much publicity comes so many opinions. While the positive comments were flying in on social media, there were efforts by some of the public to destroy Luke's limelight. One commenter disregarded Luke's work and said that all his hard work was done by the adults around him. But Luke's fans weren't going to let this commenter get away with it and wrote back that he should not be jealous, and just because he used adults' help does not mean he did not build the house himself. Many, both young and old, have been inspired by the great work of Luke Thill. 13-year-old Jacob Dill was so inspired by Luke's story that he decided to build a tiny house of his own. People all over are now looking into the tiny house movement. Although there is no official definition or measurements of what constitutes a tiny house, anything under 500 square feet could be considered. While the average size of the American family is decreasing, houses are growing over the decades. So why the movement? Architect and author Sarah Sasanka sparked the birth of the tiny house movement with her book, The Not So Big House, released in 1997. Sasanka's aim was to encourage people to build better, not bigger. Many people were fond of the idea, as house prices had increased and so people wanted a simpler, more efficient lifestyle. More interest began after many tiny shelters named Katrina Cottages were created after Hurricane Katrina hit. The 2008 financial crisis also led to more people needing affordable and eco-friendly living solutions. But what is life like in a tiny house? People in small houses are proud to save money and live greener, but there are many setbacks to living in a tiny home. The lack of living and storage space is difficult enough on top of the lack of space to simply move around in. Additionally, tiny house owners say it is hard to find spaces to build these unusual structures. Although many can arrange for plumbing infrastructure, Luke Thill can certainly relate to a lot of the issues. Luke uploaded a video to his YouTube channel on New Year's Eve called The Best Year of My Life. In the video, he shared his thoughts and discussed all he had accomplished in the year. He spoke about his newly acquired skills of building and using tools, something the average teenager does not learn at school, as well as his ability to persevere after failure. He became an inspiration worldwide, all from watching DIY videos from YouTube.